Andrea Harris of pathwayforjoy.com. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the power of emotional literacy in grieving families. I'm going to say that again. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the power of emotional literacy in grieving families. So, grief and emotional literacy. Grief does not come with instructions, but emotional literacy can be a lifeline for your family. Before I get into it, I want to reintroduce myself to some and introduce myself to others. My name is Carmen Andrea Harris. I am the founder of pathwayforjoy.com. I am a certified grief counselor, certified life coach, and inner healing certified professional, and I help families to navigate loss with faith, emotional wellness, and hope. And you can learn more about me and how I can help you on your journey, you or your children on your journey of grief, loss, or life transition. So, what is emotional literacy? In layman's terms, or in basic terms, emotional literacy is identifying, expressing, and managing emotions. Emotional literacy does not have to be connected to any type of death or grief or loss. It can just simply be knowing how to identify what you're feeling, being able to express what you're feeling, and being able to manage your emotions. Now, why does emotional literacy matter, especially for kids? Emotional literacy is vital during grief because it equips kids with the language and the tools to understand and express complex emotions. When children lose someone important, they often experience a whirlwind of feelings, including sadness, anger, confusion, and even guilt that can be overwhelming for them. By developing emotional literacy, kids can learn to do a couple of things. Number one, they can learn to identify and name emotions. Understanding what they're feeling makes it easier for them to articulate their experiences. Secondly, by developing emotional literacy, kids can learn how to process complex emotions. They can break down overwhelming feelings into manageable parts, which is going to aid in them coping and moving forward from the loss that they've experienced. Number three, by developing emotional literacy, kids can learn to communicate effectively. Being able to express their emotions helps children to seek comfort from trusted adults. Number four, by developing emotional literacy, kids can learn to build resilience. Over time, these skills can foster emotional regulation and a healthier response to future challenges. And then the last reason, or the last thing that kids can learn by developing their emotional literacy, they can learn to strengthen their relationships. Improved communication can foster empathy and trust, enabling family members to support one another through grief. So, in essence, nurturing emotional literacy creates a safe space for kids to process loss and ultimately leading to healthier emotional recovery and long-term well-being. So, how does grief affect emotional expression? And I'm going to go over a few age-specific responses, meaning I'm going to tell you how kids typically respond depending on their age. Now, just a little bit about me. I did say I was a certified grief counselor, life coach, and inner healing certified. My background is in education. I was an elementary school teacher for many years. On a personal level, I have experienced grief and I have helped my own children through grief by helping them to process the death of my late husband and their father. So I have professional experience and I also have personal experience with children. So with children, when it comes to grief, whether that grief comes from the death of a parent, the death of a loved one, or if it comes from a divorce or a family breakup, they respond different based on their age. So kids that are below the age of 5, children younger than 5, they don't understand that death is final. And they're going to clearly demonstrate this in how they speak about death. For example, when my late husband died, my daughters were ages 4 and 7. My 4-year-old, when we came home, when she was 4 at the time, this was in 2018, when we came home from the hospital after my late husband had suddenly died, we come in the door and she's like, well, who's going to be our daddy now? And she was just as innocent, and she really wanted to know, like, okay, my daddy died. Certainly, I'm going to have another daddy come because everybody has to have a daddy. So children below the age of 5, they don't really understand that death is final. Now, children from ages 5 to 10, they gradually develop an understanding of death as irreversible, with all life functions ended. For example, children ages 5 to 10, they may think in their mind, when you're dead, you're dead. So they have a pretty good concept of death as being final. Now, children from 10 to adolescence, their concept of death becomes more abstract, and they're able to understand more of the long-term consequences. I think I'm still going. I don't know. Somebody called my phone. Sorry, people, friends, new followers. So, as I was saying, children from 10 through adolescence, from 10 years old, death becomes more abstract to them, and they're able to understand more of the long-term consequences of death. And deaths that happen at this age from 10 until adolescence can result in relatively strong emotions because they have a better understanding of death. So, suppression of grief versus healthy expression of grief. There is such a thing as expressing your grief in a healthy way. There's also such a thing as suppressing your grief, which is not healthy, okay? So let's talk about suppression of grief. Some of the ways that people suppress their grief is, number one, avoidance, which they're steering clear of reminders or conversations about the loss. As I said, to give you an example, my children were 4 and 7 when my husband died. My oldest daughter, at the time, she was in complete avoidance mode. My youngest baby, she kept saying, and again, children that are below the age of 5, they're very black and white. They don't really understand what's going on. So my youngest baby, in addition to her asking who's going to be our father now, our daddy now, she kept saying, well, if mommy would have took daddy to a different hospital, he wouldn't have died. And just innocent, she didn't know. My oldest daughter at the time was 7. And every time my baby girl would say that, she would say, stop saying that. Stop talking about it. Like, she didn't want to talk about it. She didn't want to think about it. Okay? So avoidance is a form of suppression of grief. The next form of suppression of grief is emotional numbing. This is appearing detached or indifferent or masking your true feelings to what happened. Okay? The next example is physical symptoms. Grief can show up in your body. If you suppress it, it can show up in negative ways. This can be increased stress, fatigue, or unexplained aches. There is such a thing as having just random aches and pains that don't have anything to do with, any health issues, but it could be directly related to people suppressing grief. Another form of suppression of grief is isolation. This is withdrawing from friends and family and avoiding support completely. Now, there are some times where you may be going through it and you just don't want to be around people because you feel like the people around you, even though they love you, they don't understand. That's how I felt when I found myself 38 years old with 2 small children and I was widowed. Like, there were times where I had to just be by myself. It wasn't an unhealthy isolation. It was me just needing to be by myself because I felt like nobody in the world could really understand what I was going through unless they were another widow and they were on the same journey. Now let's talk about some healthy expression of grief. Number 1 is acknowledgement, recognizing and naming your feelings, whether it's sadness, whether it's anger, whether it's confusion, whether it's relief, whether it's feeling liberated. Those are all normal grief feelings, acknowledging those feelings out loud. There were times when my late husband died that I was like, I'm angry, like I'm mad at him. And it didn't make any sense because it's like, how could you be mad at someone who's dead? But I was honest, like, I'm angry. So acknowledging your feelings, no matter what they are, is a very healthy form of expression of your grief. Number 2 is communication, sharing memories and emotions with trusted individuals, because you want to make sure that as you're going through your grief process and your healing process, that you're in safe spaces and around safe people. Okay? Just because someone is safe, it doesn't mean that they understand what you're going through and that they're always going to have the right words to say. It means that your emotions are safe with them, your feelings are safe with them, your thoughts are safe with them, no matter what they are. Number 3 is coping mechanisms, engaging in rituals, therapy, counseling, or creative outlets to process your loss. And then the last healthy form of grieving that I'm going to share with you is gradual healing. This is accepting that grief is a process. Dare I say that grief is a lifelong journey that evolves over time with support. So, these contrasts between suppressing grief and healthy expression of grief, they highlight that while suppression may temporarily shield individuals from pain and it may feel safe, healthy expression enables healing and fosters emotional resilience, meaning that you'll be able to move forward. And as life continues to happen, because life will continue to happen, even though you may have gone through the death, the loss, the life transition, you'll be able to move forward and to process whatever may come your way better if you decide to express your grief in a healthy way versus suppressing your grief. So let's talk about how to teach emotional literacy at home. So some practical examples of teaching emotional literacy at home is number one, a feelings chart. You can Google what a feelings chart is. You can create one. If you have a child that you're walking through grief or loss or a life transition, whether that be from a death of someone close to them, whether it be from divorce, whether it be from a major life transition, like moving from one state to the next and having their whole friend circle change, you can pull up the feelings chart, and on any given day, if they're feeling any kind of way and they don't want to necessarily talk about it or articulate it, you can have them point to the feeling on the chart. How are you feeling today? Okay. The next one is naming emotions out loud. This helps to build up emotional literacy. Can you tell me how you're feeling? Can you communicate how you're feeling? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling confused? Are you feeling blah? Are you feeling angry? And then number 3 is modeling behavior. Going back to my experience and my personal grief journey, I never hid my tears from my children. I never hid my sadness from my children because I wanted them to know that it was okay to be sad and to cry when someone that we love dies, okay? So you can model, being open emotionally to your children. You can model saying, hey, I'm not really feeling my best today. I'm feeling a little sad today because I'm thinking about daddy. So modeling that behavior. Now, if you are a family of faith, which me and my family are, some faith-based examples that you can use to teach emotional literacy at home is number 1, prayer. We are a praying family. We will get together, hold hands, and pray. Number 2, Bible verses, pulling out some Bible verses that have to do with healing and that have to do with grief and loss and mourning. Maybe putting them on some note cards, putting them around the home and just speaking them and declaring them when you feel like you need them the most. And then also affirmations. We believe in affirmations as well. So those are just some ways that you can teach emotional literacy at home. So just to wrap this up and to close this up, just know that your home can be a safe space for emotional healing for your child. You may not have all of the answers. You may not know exactly what to do, but as long as you create that safe space for them and you let them know that it's okay for them to feel whatever emotion that they may be feeling, no matter what they have experienced, you'll be in a good position to build up emotional literacy in your child. So if your family is walking through grief, loss, or a life transition and you want guidance and support, I want you to visit my website, pathwayforjoy.com, to start your journey. I offer counseling and coaching for women, children, and families, and you can learn more about my services and how you can get started with me on my website, pathwayforjoy.com. So thank you so much for watching. If this information is of value to you, if you want to learn more about grief, healing, emotional wellness, emotional literacy, then make sure that you subscribe and turn your notifications on. And then also, I want you to join my email community on pathwayforjoy.com. That way you can stay connected, plugged in. You can get exclusive content, updates, and special offers. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Thanks for those of you who will catch this on the replay. Peace and blessings. This is Carmen Andrea Harris of pathwayforjoy.com. Bye.